This conference will now be recorded.
All right, sir. Over to you. You are the
Sure, thank you so
presenter
much.
now.
So share entire screen. Share. Please let me know once you are able to see my screen.
Coming up. Yeah, I can see.
Great. How about everyone? Can you see my screen?
Yes, Vinay, it's
Yes.
perfectly all right.
Oh, thank you
Yeah.
so much. Appreciate it. So welcome all. I think uh, today we will be talking about transportation management and its alignment with industry. And myself and Prabhjot will be conducting this session. Yeah, and that's where we show over here like all the modes of transportation and the earth and the connections out here. And that's the topic which I'm going to talk to. Moving on to the next screen, what would be the agenda, right, for today? We will start with introduction. Then I would add a couple of lines on SCM Champ's contribution to the EWM transportation community. Then we'll talk on transportation management as a whole. How many players are there in the market? How do we compete with each other? What is the Gartner's magic quadrant, and where are these uh, players placed? Who are the leaders? Who are the challengers? All those stuff. Then we talk about transportation management process. What are the key elements of transportation management process? Then we talk about what is the industry ask, right? My discussions with the CTOs and the businesses and all. What is the key ask from the industry when we talk to any customer and we interview the key stakeholders and the business guys? What's the key ask from them? What is their expectation from transportation management? How the industry is moving as we embark on the uh, 4.0 industrial revolution. What is the main ask, yeah, from these guys, from the top notch guys? And where does the SAP TM architect fit into it? What is his role? How he will bridge up the gap between the business and the SAP software that we have? Then we will also talk about circular economy. I will explain what is circular economy for those who would like to hear on circular economy and what's the contribution and what SAP is doing primarily in SAP Transportation Management to build up that initiative. And last but not least, the most fearful session where I will have to duck on all the bouncers, that is the question and answer session. So here we go. We start. This is the introduction column. Okay, and we have Prabhjot with us. Prabhjot, I would say, need no introduction. The name itself is good enough, and we know Prabhjot is the founder of SCM Champs, doing a lot of work in the EWM and TM space, and primarily in the supply chain space. I would definitely need an introduction. I'm Vinay Narvekar. I'm SAP S4HANA architect, working primarily on extended warehouse management solutions and also transportation management. I carry almost like 20 years of WM, EWM, and TM expertise, and definitely work with the client to benefit from the extensive knowledge. We move forward. We talk about SCM Champ contribution to the supply chain community, and that shows the picture of a roaring tiger, and that's how SCM Champ has been all the time, always cutthroat, up to the best, providing all the best contribution to the community, to the supply chain. Thanks to Prabhjot for that. And the contribution, right? The medals that we have for SCM Champ, it shows the primary contribution out here. It talks about a lot of EWM TM projects executed successfully all across the globe. Maybe it be Canada, maybe it be United States, maybe it be Europe. So definitely a good going integration stuff too. A lot of communities are run by SCM champs, where a lot of resources gain knowledge, information, latest cutthroat information, what is up there in 2110 SAP EWM product launch. We got to know about that 3 months prior to the launch. That itself is a very big contribution, in fact, I would say. Experienced resources deployed on the projects benefiting the customer. That's the most important stuff. The customer is benefited, the resources get knowledge on the cutthroat technologies and the latest offerings by SAP and the customer's need. Some of the niche solutions, right, that have been implemented by SCM champs are warehouse billing, doc appointment scheduling, which is again very much important. Back to the community contribution, as I said earlier, yes, SCM Champs runs the groups. They are very active on LinkedIn, all thanks to one guy, Prabhjot, in fact, and there are a lot of community sessions and all where there's a lot of enrichments. People are placed on projects and all. So it's a good close family that is being run by Prabhjot, and we are all benefited by that. Moving on to the next screen, here we talk about SAP Transportation Management. And one more point I would like to say, I talked about the question answer. We'll put a window of probably last 15 minutes to ask or to come up with the questions. And those questions which might not be addressed, I will reach out to those folks on email and all so that we address, or on the groups to address those. So talking about SAP Transportation Management, right? SAP Transportation Management primarily has five main pillars. We talk about the first pillar as order management, right? Where we have our sales orders or deliveries, and that's how we integrate with SAP Transportation Management. Transportation planning, which is very important. How do we plan our transport? How we select our carrier? How we plan the full truckload, the less than truckload, parcels, and all? How the planning is done? That's again very key important thing. Whether it's road transport, whether it's rail transport, whether it is ocean or whether it is air, all the stuff is planned by transportation planning. Execution is the phase where we execute the things, we run the phase, right, where we have our key documents generated in SAP Transportation Management, and we execute the stuff. We execute and see how we run the transportation documents by executing SAP Transportation Management, where we have certain documents like freight orders and all those. Then comes in the freight settlement. Now we engage the transporters. Definitely, the transporters needs to be paid. That's very important aspect. And how do we manage that? What is the industry expectations on freight settlement? What is the industry expectation on all the phases and all the pillars of transportation management? That's very important. Last but not least, this is the analytical layer. Now, with the advent of big data and a lot of important data related innovation, data is very important, in fact, and especially the transportation data. What is the year on year freight calculation? Am I doing the saving by deploying the state of art solution or not? This is the question which a transportation manager would definitely ask, or the logistic manager or the supply chain expert would ask when they implement either of the transportation management solution. Yeah, that also helps them that in a crunch time, what choice we have made, whether we have sent the shipment by road, whether we have sent the shipment by sea, or whether by air to meet the customer's need, whether the consignment has reached the customer on time or not. That's one of the analysis that we get out here also from the analytics. So very important stuff out here. Now, here is the magician, and the magician is related to the Gartner's Magic Quadrant. Now, here we see when we talk about transportation management and the layers, primarily we are from SAP community, but the buck doesn't stop over here. There are many lot of players who are challengers, who also show that yes, their transportation management is also a state of art solution, and who challenge SAP, in fact. And as we know, right, right from the time in the beginning when transportation management was just a planning tool for SAP, and which was a part of advanced planner and optimizer. SAP has gone long way, coming up with different versions, right from 7.1 to 9.1 series, and then finally coming up with the S4 HANA version, right, with embedded and standalone one. So over here we see what is the Gartner's Magic Quadrant. What does it say? Yeah. Out here we see challengers, and challengers are those service providers like E2 Open or Alpega who are the upcoming ones who has expertise in certain area, not a full-fledged one. Yeah, they are all there. Going forward, probably the next slide also, I will also show a brief comparison which we did for just for the academic purpose to portray what if a customer has SAP S4 HANA, then what would it look for in all these service providers, and who are the top four um, service providers which probably an organization would shortlist, and then probably the best of them. We'll talk about that too. What are the niche players, right? These are the niche players: 3D Logistics, Shipwell, then Blue Rock Logistics, Retailx, INC, and the visionaries. There are no visionaries out here. Then the leaders, the top four leaders, and the good part is we have SAP also as one of the leaders. So a strong catch up by SAP, in fact, in last few years on SAP Transportation Solution. Every year we come up with a new version which talks about various functionalities and all. Yeah, and then going forward in the subsequent slides we will see how SAP is also riding the digitization wave, how SAP is embarking the industry 4.0 revolution and not falling behind. So we are in good hands. In fact, we master this product. We say that yes, definitely this product is here to stay for at least next 20 years down the line, unless there is another industry disruption. So all said, we see Oracle, we see Blue Yonder by JDA, we see SAP and Manhattan Associates. Like Manhattan Associates also has a strong footwear in warehousing too, where they have their WMOS solution, which helps the retail industry and many industries, and it's highly customized solution. So talking about this, moving ahead with the further slide. Now, SAP or transportation management, how do we initiate? Like we talked about the challenges, we talked about the visionaries, we talked about the niche players. Now, how do we compare them? So here is the comparison between some of the top-notch TM TM solution providers, where we see that where here is the ranking and there is a score down below which I have provided based on the analysis and all. So we have considered various aspects, like for example the road, rail transport, ocean transport and all, then certain requirements like small parcels and express deliveries or express shipments. Out here, transportation planning, how does the automation work over here? Yeah, some of the players are good in automation, they are better than SAP or at par with SAP. Then load optimization, this is again one of the most important thing out here. Execution, how do we execute, and what are the other players doing out here? So there was a study involved with all those transportation service providers, and then finally the rating was given to those transportation management service providers, and the top four were SAP, Blue Jay, Oracle, One Network, in fact. So over here, it doesn't matches with the Gartner's Magic Quadrant, and the reason is this was done exclusively with that we have a SAP system, S4 HANA system up and running, and then we are planning to choose a SAP transportation management, and it could be either embedded or it could be a decentralized standalone transportation management. Here we see SAP gets the major thumbs up for S4 HANA integration. Yeah. So that's the ranking which has come up, and the rationale behind this ranking is in the next slide that we I show up. This is something, the rationale why we have given the highest ranking for SAP TM. Number one, I think wide range of choice for customers. We provide a on-premise choice, we provide a cloud choice, sidecar, or latest we have the side-by-side SAP Transportation Management, and we have embedded option. In that also, there is one more thing which is very, very important, that those customers who wants to go with the basic processes can easily choose the basic process transportation management, and that comes with the license of SAP S/4HANA suite. That's very important. Out here, we also show that the data process transactions, and over here the attempt is to grow to a truly intelligent enterprise model when we talk about it, where we can embed technologies like IoT, big data, blockchain, and all, and then leverage that to go in a truly digitized manner. I do have some of the examples with this blockchain or IoT, where we can showcase how SAP is also going totally on this big wave of IoT or blockchain and embarking that. Uh, there are a couple of integrations like SAP Global Trade integration, where we look for the cargo, we look for the bonded warehouse integration with SAP Transportation Management. That too is one of the most important aspect out here. Then end-to-end supply chain collaboration. Now, what happens is when you have SAP S4 HANA and you want to deploy transportation management, what we get is the end-to-end ERP view of the product, as it starts from the manufacturing or it goes till it reaches to the customer. We have end-to-end visibility with SAP Transportation Management. What are the cons, right? Every good product has also some cons, like higher total cost of implementation and deployment. A normal TM implementation takes for one given single site, which take almost like 9 to 10 months or even more than that, depending on the functionalities, to implement a SAP Transportation Management module. Many of the organizations go with a templatized model, where they develop a template first. Probably they put in or they invest almost like 7 to 8 months for to develop a strong, robust template. They hire or they depute the guardians of the template, which those are the guys who strongly, fiercely guide the template. And whenever you go for the rollout or localization, those templatized processes are fiercely guarded. And then after that, what we see is the localized process or the specific needs are implemented. Some of the examples of localized needs are like some of the truck drivers in some of the geographical parts work on WeChat or WhatsApp and all, and they wanted to integrate. That could be one of the local needs. Yeah. So yeah, and then license cost for advanced functionalities. That is something which comes up for advanced functionalities. So that's one of the aspects. These are some of the cons. And then other con, what I would say is the talent, right, that we need to implement this transportation. There is a huge demand supply gap for transportation management, and the talent comes at the high cost, and which also contributes to the high cost implementation. So it's a ever evolving, developing product, and probably we will see stabilization in probably next few years, where it will be the top notch product. Going forward, let's talk more in detail about the SAP transportation management and the pillars of transportation management. What we have out here, we have order management, right, where we have integration with sales orders and the outbound deliveries. Now, the sales orders and outbound deliveries are created primarily in the ERP system. This ERP system can be either SAP ERP, or it could be Oracle, or it could be JD Edwards, or it could be Infor. And out here we see the sales order creation and the integration. Then what's the freight unit and the packaging unit creation and the personalized work list. That's what we see in the order management submodule of SAP. Then comes the transportation planning and tendering, which is very, very important. So here we see how do we fit the product that we want to ship to the customer, or that we receive from the vendor for an inbound scenario in the truck, which it could be either manual planning. The the logistic uh, uh, the logistic in charge selects the particular truck based on or the resource based on his requirement and based on his analysis, that's the manual planning. Then automated planning, there we do not have any manual intervention. We say that everything will be executed by the system, and then we see that yes, system executes all those activities out here by automated planning. We have routing and carrier selection. What it means is the different routes. Let's say, for example, we have a consignment which is moving from Chicago to Vancouver, right? And what is the route? What is the optimal route that we need to select? Where we need to go with transmodal route or not? All this analysis is done by the routing process, and there too we have automated optimizers who look into it. Freight booking, that's again very important. How do we select the carriers out here? Tendering is again very important process out here. Like we have peer-to-peer and broadcast tendering, where we see how do we execute our tendering processes. Can we develop automation? SAP does provide a scope for automation. Capacity and equipment management, this is very important. How do we fit in the capacity? How do we load the particular material into the truck? How do we optimize them? How do we uh, choose the fitment of this particular load into the truck? What kind of truck we have? We have 20 feet container or we have 40 feet container. All those aspects are very much important in transportation planning. Finally, the dangerous goods management, like there would be certain material which would be hazmat and which needs to be having a different treatment. We'll talk about some of the customers requirement on dangerous goods and all in the upcoming slides, but this is also one of the important aspects, and this integrates well with the EHS module, environmental health and safety module of SAP S4HANA or any other ERP system. Execution and monitoring, this is one of the most important aspect. Warehouse usually goes hand in hand with SAP Transportation Management, and this could be either SAP warehouse management, which could be extended warehouse management, or it could be Manhattan in the background, or it could be Red Prairie warehouse. It could be any warehouse, and SAP Transportation Management is designed to have a handshake with this warehouse management systems. Track and trace, this is very important, where once we have the vehicles which have moved out. Sorry, what was the point? Okay. So either go with the track and trace, where we track the vehicles, and SAP has a separate module now which talks about track and trace. Initially, we had event management, which was a bolt-on software out here, where we see where the events that were triggered used to correlate or collaborate with the truck drivers and all, and those events would be updated. But now SAP has come up with LBN and track and trace, where we are able to help track those devices. Subsequent slides, we will talk in detail about that. Customs compliance, which is GTS, which is again very important aspect. Document management, yes, what are the important export documents? What are the invoices or the bill of lading that needs to be printed? That's one of the important aspect out here. I will also share one of the very much interesting project which I did for uh, one of the customers, and how they manage the document management by integrating with iOS Apple devices. Talking about the freight settlement, here we talk about the freight settlement, which is one of the most important aspect. Now we deploy or we engage our carriers to pick up our goods either inbound from the vendors or for external ones. And how do we pay to the carriers? It's very important, right? Do we spend a lot of time in receiving the quotes, receiving the rates based on the routes, or do we optimize that, or do we automate that? It's one of the most important aspect, and majority of the needs of the CTOs and the supply chain experts is how do we automate it. So it's a need to have a contract based agreement so that we can calculate our charges and all. And in case there is any mismatch to that, how do we do the dispute management out here? Most of the organizations also deploy vendor invoice management software to uh, calculate or to scan the invoices and clear them. Yeah, that's again very important aspect. So invoice integration is one of the most important stuff. Last but not least is the analytics part. Again, this is the world of KPIs, dashboards, performance monitoring. So transportation management seamlessly integrates with business integration, BI, business intelligence, and also has embedded some of the aspects for calculating or for showing up the dashboards. SAP S4HANA comes up with the embedded analytics, which also helps with the KPIs and the dashboards. In addition to that, SAP Transportation Management also provides some personal Paul queries too, by which the users will be able to generate those queries, have some dashboards prepared for themselves. That's also one of the choice, and we can also go for exclusive analytics too as a part of SAC, as a SAP Analytic Cloud, where we can deploy those services and get reap the benefits of the cloud solutions. That's out and out the plan to move solution which SAP Transportation provides. Here are some of the TM current and future solutions that we see. Now, here one most important thing to add is we also have SAP Elite Transportation Management, the conventional, the shipment that we generate in SAP ECC, and that has been long serving, a loyal contributor to shipment, but it has its own limitations, and that's the reason why SAP saw the need to develop SAP Transportation Management solution. So what is that? Yeah, how do we compare the solutions provided by Elite Transportation Management, basic shipping which is provided by SAP, and the advanced TM which needs specific license? So we say delivery based transportation management. This is one of the key important thing. Elitra supports it, and advanced TM supports it completely. The most important factor over here is order based transportation management, transportation planning, which is a sales order transportation planning, which is not supported by Elytra, but however, SAP Advanced TM supports it. Manual planning, yes, supported by Elytra, but not supported, but completely supported by SAP Advanced TM. Optimizers, vehicle scheduling and routing optimizer, a big no in Elytra. We were not able to develop that, but advanced TM supports that. Driver management, look into the health checkups of the driver, whether driver is tired, whether he needs a replacement, whether he needs a second guy who can replace him. All those stuff is executed well by SAP Transportation Management Advanced version. Event management, as we see, a very good insight in SAP Transportation Management, track and trace, LPN, those help. Strategic freight procurement, again, big no in Elytra, but transportation management supports it well. GTS integration, again, here we see that SAP TM supports it quite well. Tendering, yes, partially. We have something called as cost collectors and all in SAP Elytra, but however, advanced TM does uh, tendering well, interacts with the carrier or the service providers and takes the quote and all, and selects the best possible carrier. Automated carrier selection, again, advanced TM does it well. Dangerous goods management, yes, we had that provision in Elytra, which is being continued by advanced TM. Charge calculation, fully supported by advanced TM as compared to Elytra. Freight cost settlement, again, same thing. It's completely advanced in advanced TM, where we go through the process and it can be completely automized. Incoming invoice verification from the carrier, yes, supported by all. Analytics is again the main important area. Besides that, something like data aging, forwarding order management, forwarding settlement, group logistics, these are the future upcoming developments from SAP TM, which we would see in the next upcoming versions. This is out and out a very simple high level flow which I would like to narrate in a day in the life for anyone who runs through a complete cycle, and how do we execute that, right? So let's say, for example, we have a order to cash where we generate a sales order, and believe me, this is an advanced TM because as we see in the previous slide, OTR, order-based transportation request, or order-based planning is supported only by advanced TM and not by basic TM processes. So this is an advanced scenario. So once a sales order is created, it generates a order-based transportation request, and the freight unit is created automatically with that. Now, when a sales order is created, depending on the line items in the sales order, we have a choice, and we have a choice whether we can select either one line creates a one freight unit, or both the lines create one single freight unit. Yeah. Then we have the outbound deliveries which are generated. Now imagine if we have a embedded TM, right? So embedded TM will only support delivery-based transportation planning, and we have a logistic service integrator, logistic LSI, which helps us to integrate the delivery and the embedded TM. So once we see here, we have a freight unit. Then in a carrier selection process, this can be either automized, or it can be, or the freight team or the logistic team can select the carrier and choose it and assign it to the freight unit, and that will generate a freight order. Now, once you have the freight order can automatically generate a delivery based transportation request, which will trigger a outbound delivery in S4 HANA, and which will also generate a outbound delivery in a warehouse, where we see the ODOs, outbound delivery orders, being generated in SAP EWM. One most important thing is the freight order, that also, if there are multiple outbound deliveries, then the freight order would become a transportation unit in the EWM. But SAP is making an enhancement in shipping and receiving, where we are completely eliminating the transportation unit out here. Now, once we receive these outbound deliveries, and um, these are clustered in a transportation unit, the picking, the packing, and the loading process starts. These are separate processes where we generate the warehouse orders and warehouse tasks in SAP Extended Warehouse Management, where we have the RF mobility processes which kick in out here, and a handheld device is used by the material handler to execute these processes. Finally, when everything is done, when the uh, product is loaded into the truck, like, that's again very important aspect out here, because SAP Transportation Management also helps in loading and simulating the loading to where you get a 3D view, like what is the product, which product will move first, how do we load the product, so that we can optimize the use of the container, the space of the container, to based on the weight, based on the volume out here. That's again important aspect. Another most important aspect out here is if we have a LTL, or we have a multiple customers in the same truck, then it's always important that we have the stops, and we load the material as per the stops. We pick the material as per the stops. The first customer that which will come in the way or in the route, the material has to be loaded last, and the last customer, the material has to be loaded at the end, which comes near to the driver, yeah, behind the driver. So this is something which needs to be taken into consideration when we talk about loading the material into the truck. Finally, the post goods issue, and this post goods issue, when you have a embedded EWM or a extended warehouse management side by side version, at that time the PGI is triggered through EWM, through either the transportation unit or individual deliveries, which goes to updates the TM and the S4 HANA, and it would generate a outbound ASN to the customer, saying that yes, the material has been dispatched. This is primarily the outbound 856, which generates and reports to the customer. We also see over here the post goods issue, but many of the customers would also ask for POD, and in case of POD, proof of delivery, what happens is we do not generate the 601 movement. I'm talking about the detailed integrities of the movement type, but we do not generate the 601 movement for the PGI, but we generate a 681 movement, where the system shows that the material has moved out. Now, when the customer receives it, receives the material, and the customer acknowledges it. uh, we generate we run a transaction by a batch or based on the inputs that is received, which is the VLPOD transaction, which executes the 601 movement, and we execute the revenue recognition out here for the goods, for the cost of goods sold. So this is out and out a process. And last but not least, how do we pay to these freight forwarders, right? So based on the freight settlement that we generate a service purchase order automatically. Now remember, this service purchase order is an internal document. This is not to be submitted to the vendor or to the carrier. This is just an internal document, and based on the services, the logistic guy or the SAP service guy will generate a service entry in the system, and which is a good candidate for freight invoice settlement. Finally, the distribution of the cost for any sales order, that happens with the agency business document that is generated. And finally, the customer is invoiced, and we see the revenue recognition out here, or the accounts receivables from the customer. Now, what is the ask from the customer? If we talk about that, based on my interaction with the top-notch customers who look for to implement SAP Transportation Management, is the freight cost transparency. They want to see the freight cost even before shipping the product to the customer. They want to see, okay, what if we select this route, X route? What if we select Y route? What if we select Z route? What would be the cost? Can you give us the tentative cost? That's one of the expectations. That's the transparency, and they need a very less delta between this actual cost and the simulated route. Simulated tendering, right? Before even receiving the quote, or before even receiving the quote from the service providers, based on the data that we have, can we simulate the tendering? How do we reduce the cost in the tendering? That's one of the aspect. Automated transportation planning, yeah, GPS vehicle tracking is again one of the most important aspect out here, so that we see the real time, we track the vehicle real time, especially those organizations who manufacture wines and all, and they order for grapes. They need to check the quality, like what is the grapes quality which has been onboarded into the truck, what are the different modes that the grapes have gone through at any given juncture, at any given time. What is the quality of the grape, what is the grapes, what is the sweetness level of the grape, and how do we best provide the best possible wine to our customers, right? All those aspects are helped with the help of blockchain and the GPS tracking, right? We come to know whether the vehicle has gone through a breakdown in between or so. Do we need to offload those grapes into a different truck? What will the loss in the properties of the grapes? All those aspects are taken into consideration for specific products, and that's the need, in fact, in today's industry, to track the product very well. And with the COVID and all, it's very important to have touchless deliveries at this point of time. So that's one of the important aspect too. Direct integration with the truck drivers. Yes, we want to know where the truck driver is when we receive a truck from the port, right, to for a inbound receipt. We want to know when the consignment will come out, so that the truck driver reaches with his truck exactly at the same time. There are no detention charges at the port, because the detention charges are very heavy. At the same time, we do not want our container to come out and wait for the truck driver to arrive. So it's just in time, which is very very important out here. Automated load planning, 3D vision, vehicle scheduling and optimizer, it's very important. That's one of the asks. KPIs, monitoring year to year the freight savings. These are the targets that are given to uh, the CTOs and also the staff which manages the transportation. Moving forward, what's the latest industry trend, right? Here we see we have a shipper. The shipper is the one who ships the product. That's the shipper scenario. We have a 3PL who is a warehouse in between. They take the custody of the material, and they do ship the devices or ship the product to the end customer, or from the inbound sites, they collect the material from the vendors, they do the milk run, collect the material from the vendors and deliver it to the shippers. LSPs, these are out and out transportation agencies who take the material or who get the material from the shippers. They just manage their transportation management, and the ERP, the sales orders, the purchase orders are created in a separate system. Yeah. Then we have other authorities and the consignees. How do we move here? So it's very important to track this, right? The LBN, SAP LBN helps to track all sort of things out here and helps us to really see that when we track something where we see a real scenario where we say farm to fork, right, where there is tracking of each and every phases of the product till it reaches the end customer. Now, here are some of the important collaborations from the SAP side, right, with a organization called as SICK, SICK. SICK AG is an organization which SAP has collaborated with to bring in the IoT, the blockchain, and all, where it truly helps to track the product. So we deploy sensors. SICK AG is into IoT, and it helps to track the devices, and it provides a seamless integration with SAP and provides a real-time data to SAP and to the SAP users. What are the pros? Yes, real-time software, IoT software existing. The most important thing out here, the con is the charges. The sensors cost, right? That still needs to become, it still needs to come down, and that is one of the important aspect, right? Recently, we saw a big panic generated in the automotive industry where the chips cost was going out there, going high because of the non-availability of the chips. Similarly, the sensors are very important aspect out here. Ocean also similar thing. So many of these IoT devices are returnable. We need durable batteries and all, so that we need to. There's a lot of research going on in this, but definitely as we are embracing electric vehicles, similarly integrated and sensor technology is also around the corner. And these are some of the real-time smart lock six solutions that we see out here within the warehouses. As we move here, we see the transportation management, the supply chain team tracking the vehicles real time, the air shipment, and then we have all those devices. We have the trucks coming in with the help of SIG, tracking the devices one after another, and just trying to ensure that all the we really utilize the internet of things, we utilize the uh, IoTs and blockchain well, because blockchain as a fast as a part of the bitcoins and all has is really doing well in supply chain too and logistics too. What are the real-time industry trends? What are the messages, or what are the industry doing, right? What are the industry needs? Here is an example of a e-commerce company wherein which they need small parcels, and they have almost like 10K parcels shipped in a day, right? And they need to integrate with UPS and FedEx. So rather than integrating one by one with UPS and FedEx, they do need a intermediate software which helps to seamlessly integrate SAP with those UPS and FedEx. And then again, like the rates are different based on your route, based on your the weight of your parcels. So definitely a rate shopping need is also required out here, where this softwares integrate with SAP Transportation Management. They also integrate with SAP EWM, where the UPS label is printed right into your warehouse, and you flap it or slap it on the boxes and you ship to the customer. So here, Amazon or the Lowe's, which is a furniture the outlet, or Walmart, these are just the mediators. The end customer, the end vendor ships directly to the customer, and the customer feels that it's coming from Amazon and all. That's how the integrated process is. Yeah, and there is also some preferred customers too for Amazon, or preferred vendors for Amazon too out here. I'll take 2 or 3 minutes more to walk through, and then we will open for the question and answers. But here again, one of the example is out here for the manufacturing industry, for the LTL shipments. There is a most important need to select the carriers, to select the best possible carrier who can fit. Again, talking about a consignment which is moving from Florida to probably from West Palm Beach, Florida to, let's say, Seattle, Washington, then one needs to see define various carriers, the list of carriers that you have. Who are the carriers who are the best to provide this? Who are the carriers who will reach on time? What are the carriers who will choose the best possible optimal route so that the material reaches the customers based on the commitment, based on the GATP or the availability to promise date that we have provided to the customer. And this system provides the top three carriers. There are certain third party service providers for this particular services like CAS and all, which do help the customers with the ranking of the customers, but SAP does help out to provide this ranking. Then the high-tech industries, for example, you have a battery which is a hazmat material, and this needs to be shipped. How do we execute that? So it's very important to identify those dangerous goods, seamlessly integrate with the environmental health and safety module of SAP, integrate it with that. And especially in Europe, we have 1,000 point ADR rule calculation. That means if the point calculation for the dangerous goods goes beyond 1,000 point, then there is a separate treatment for these the dangerous goods or the hazmat material, and the charges and all would apply as per that. So that deals with the freight calculation. Automotive industries, they are primarily looking for just in time. That's one of the most important aspect. So the contribution from the freight forwarder or the carriers is very important out here. There's a lot of automation demanded over here, where the freight charge or the calculation is done automatically. If there is any dispute between the freight cost, that is calculated, and then it goes for dispute management. It has a typical workflow, in fact, to decide yes whether dispute is accepted or not. Service PO, service entry is something which is created in background, invoice verification, and finally integration with the bank, which is again very important aspects. Organizations do not even want to send the documents, printed documents and all, do not even want to implement OCRs at this point of time. They want to have direct integration with the banks of this carriers, and also that the money is transferred directly to them. This is also one of the important aspect out here. Now, last but not least, circular economy, right? We see at this point of time, every organization or every CTO has in his yearly bonus one of the factor for the carbon footprint, and that's very important. That's where the circular economy comes into picture. Now here is the difference between a circular economy and the linear economy. Circular economy is something which like looks into the waste, very less waste. It looks for a cleaner production, and whatever waste is produced, it also helps to recycle that. Today I was looking into a commercial of shoes where it showed that all those shoes are produced by the waste, plastic waste and also, which is a very important one. SAP Ariba is also working exclusively on the oceanic waste. They wanted to utilize this oceanic waste to produce. They want to have a market for that, so that there are vendors who buy those oceanic waste and produce products with that, so that we reduce the oceanic waste and give a clean life to the ocean animals or the fish and all those animals which live beneath the water. Linear economy talks about like you take, make and dispose, probably like a T model or a T vehicle, T model of Ford, where you focus on manufacturing, you don't know what is disposed and all. Yeah, that's one of the important. What is SAP doing to reduce this waste in transportation management arena? Over here we see that the carrier selection, whether it is a gas driven vehicle, or whether gas means petrol diesel, or whether it's an electric vehicle, SAP is giving an importance to this. Sustainability factors, right? We calculate the CO2 emissions. How do we calculate is the carbon dioxide factor into distance into total weight. This helps us to calculate the emissions, CO2 emission, calculate the fuel consumption. Here it is how it is calculated. The fuel quantity is fuel consumption factor into distance into total weight. Now, best optimized route is one of the most important aspect, and that's how we calculate the carbon footprint. So SAP is also coming up with a solution in transportation management where we have clean delivery to our customers. Thanks a lot for hearing me out. And finally, the question and answer session. Guys, feel free to ask questions and appreciate your patience.
Thank you, Vinay. And then over to the people. If they have any questions, they can definitely ask.
I
One
would
such
give a
question
toffee
is,
to I would give a
you know,
toffee to those who do not ask questions. Just kidding.
so one such question is that will this presentation be available?
Oh yeah,
Uh,
definitely,
yeah.
definitely.
So this is
It's all
one
for the
of the things.
community.
Yeah, right. Uh, any other question, guys? And anyone has any question, then
Was
they
it
can
too
ask.
complicated?
Vinay, this is Chetan here, this
Hey,
side.
hi, Vinay.
Hi,
This is
Chetan.
Mani.
Yes, Chetan. First, you ask Manish. Please
Go
wait.
ahead, Chetan.
So, Vinay, in my experience, so some of the clients going for the OTM, Oracle TM, rather than SAP TMs. I know that SAP is nowadays coming with the new solutions, and they are reducing the pain areas like deliveries and other stuff also. But still, I feel that customers are more comfortable with Oracle TM. So in that perspective, want to know what SAP is doing to capture the market and going forward.
Yep, that's a very good question, in fact, and that also was reflected in the Gartner's Magic Quadrant. If you see that, Oracle was at the top, then there was Blue Yonder at the number two position, then SAP. That was the ranking, right? And then Manhattan Associates was at number four. So definitely, yes, still the preferred choice is Oracle TMS, and SAP is definitely coming up with a lot of innovations and all, like for example, this IoT innovation is one of the most important aspect out here. And then SAP is also trying to ensure that there is fair amount of automation, right? What is the industry ask at this point of time when we talk about industry revolution 4.0? Everybody wants things to be automated, things to work at a click, in fact. Yeah. And then in addition to that, mobility is one of the most important factor. So SAP's solution is all based on big data, their mobility solutions, and even IoT connection of devices. All those stuffs are considered as prime. And SAP also has a very close eye on the competition too. And that's the reason why SAP has reached the leadership quadrant, because of the continuous improvement. So SAP year on year is coming up with a lot of improvements, and they have their future projections too, like what will be the improvement after 2 years. So the product roadmap has been clearly defined, and this has been aligned with the industry 4.0 revolution, and also and the competitors too. Does that answer your question?
Yeah. Thanks, Vinay, and thanks for your
Thank you.
cracking presentation on
Mhm.
SAP TM.
Thank you so
Yeah,
much.
Manish.
Hello. Hello, this is
Manish, you can ask
Brahma.
question.
Hi, hi
Manish,
Brahma,
please
Prabhjot.
go
can
ahead.
you please, Brahma, please wait. Let Manish
Yeah.
ask question. Yes, Manish, please.
Hey, yeah, Vinay. Thank you, Prabhjot. So my question is this IoT or blockchain, these are the part of Leonardo, Vinay, or these are the separate kind of modules, or how it is integrated?
Yeah. So SAP initially, way back, if you know, in 2016 and all, came up with a big bang on Leonardo. Yeah. So was
Mhm.
Salesforce or somebody else. They came up with another product called as Einstein. In fact, so all this, right? Creative minds. Everybody was coming up with a creative mind solution. And what did Leonardo have? Leonardo had big data. Leonardo had blockchain. Leonardo had IoT. However, after 2017 also, we started hearing very less and less about Leonardo. Right now, probably if you look through the SAP architecture, and if you got an opportunity to go through the RISE program of SAP, you will not hear specific word Leonardo. But yes, the solutions are out there. So the solutions like IoT, then big data, blockchain are still there. Now, when I talk about this IoT, SAP themselves have come up with a presentation out here that they are collaborating with the SICK AG, which is a sensor-based technology IoT organization, and they are trying to help out those carriers, those customers who want to truly benefit by IoT. So it's a embedded solution, it's a collaborative solution which SAP comes up with. Just an out of track solution. Like for example, in warehouse management, right? In warehouse management, inventory counting is a very painful activity. Your material handler will go inside the warehouse, and then whether it is cycle count or where is a continuous count, those guys have a full-time job of counting the material all and all. Now SAP collaborated and SAP came up with a very beautiful solution of flying drones. So what this do is these drones fly in the warehouse, they scan the handling units, they scan the barcodes and all, and they come up with this counting. Now it's a very important aspect over here. The drones also need to learn. There's a learning time span for this drone, so that they scan those handling unit, they come up with a count. So this is an evolving solution right now. In fact, the drones are also learning how to count. Drones recently only are used in military majoritarily, but then the industry is also learning how to use drones for various applications. So that's how the solution is. I have also seen self-guided vehicles in the warehouse which runs at a speed of like 3 miles per hour, where they pick the material, they load the material. All those aspects are done by robots at this point of time, and this is not a today technology. This has been running since probably 4 or 5 years or so. We call it as SGV. If you Google and if you go to YouTube and look for JBT solutions for self-guided vehicle, you will see that. And SAP collaborates well, because for SAP it's very important to gel well with all such solutions. Otherwise SAP will phase out, it will remain behind. The ERP world are growing very fast, and there are a lot of bespoke systems also coming up which come up with all those solutions. So very important aspect for SAP to collaborate with similar type of solutions.
Okay. Okay, Vinay. Thank you.
Does
Yes,
that answer your
Brahma.
question, Manish?
Yeah, Vinay. Yeah, thank you.
Thank you.
Yes,
Brahma?
Brahma, you can ask your question.
Yeah, hi, this is Brahma. Hi, Vinay, as well as
Hi,
Prabhjot.
Brahma.
Myself is in SAP EWM only, but I have never come across with EWM as well as TM integration as far as this concept is concerned. What I'm expecting is, this EWM TM integration is coming to picture. Or, what I'm trying to ask is it getting integrated uh, from 1709 or from 1909? So like that, and I would like to have a brief documentation kind of thing actually, because I have
Sure.
joined this session in the middle. So I would like to
No,
know how exactly this EWM is integrated with TM, and
mhm.
how the scenarios will come into picture as far as this integration is concerned. So I would like to have a clear documentation.
Sure. So I think SAP EWM and TM has been active, in fact, since probably I would say 2014, 2013. In fact, as far as I'm seeing the SAP TM and EWM implementation, the only difference is at that time it was a SCM box. So SAP Transportation Management was a separate box. SAP Extended Warehouse Management was a separate box, and SAP ECC was a separate box. So ECC and TM used to integrate through process integration, and TM, EWM and ECC used to integrate with RFCs, and TM and EWM again used to integrate through the process integration. Now, as we move forward, PI has been replaced by process orchestration. SAP made changes. SAP brought in with 1610. First, they use this opportunity to have a embedded extended warehouse management in SAP S4 HANA, and slowly they brought in TM also as an embedded one in 1709. However, having said that, still there are RFCs which integrate S4 HANA with EWM and TM2. Yeah, that's one of the aspects. Now what has happened is, of recent, since 1909, SAP has brought in the architecture also of standalone TM on S4 HANA. So entire architecture to works. Now, how does this integration takes place when SAP architecture is on S4 HANA? First thing is, most important thing is the master data. So the master data integrates earlier by using SIF model. Now this has been replaced by data replication model, and data replication model also has two versions. One is the web version and second is the IDOC version, and SAP has its own recommendation too. So transactional data and the master data both integrates well with SAP TM, EWM, and S4 HANA. And definitely I will help you with the documentation, because we have SOA manager set up also for this. We have RFC set up, we have process integration set up, so I can help you with documentation, Rama.
Okay, thank you. Thank you very much.
You're welcome.
Anyone has any question?
Well, hello,
Yeah,
Prabhjot.
Prabhjot, can I go? I've been waiting for
Yeah,
some
go ahead,
time now.
please.
Yeah, Lalka, go ahead.
Hey, Vinay. It's a very good presentation. I mean, very good pre-sales presentation. So I will tell you a scenario where I
Mhm.
work as an architect from the IT side, and
Mhm.
then the business has, unfortunately, I have been trying to push a lot about SAP TM, but then they have chosen, say, giving your reason of Gartner that okay, Blue Yonder is the best solution that we should go for, and they have choose. I mean, it's like in a big supply chain transformation programs, it's always business driven, and IT is just executes that what they decide. So I
Yep.
try to do some demos for outbound how for super scenario and try to show to business, and also they tried to reach this blue endure consultants. They sold their thing, but when we talk about the pricing thing, I mean SAP TM is quite expensive compared to blue endure. So they did went for this blue endure thing for the outbound part, but then now when we are doing S4HANA, I have been trying to uh, push this for inbound because the inbound transportation systems are going to die, so we have to do something. And then I have been trying to tell them that okay, can we go for this SAP TM for the inbound part, and going forward, I mean, of course, me with my power, with this my love for SAP, I will try to push the outbound part as well. But then what kind of demos do you think I should? I mean, your presentation is a great presentation for pre-sales, but then what kind of demos do you think I can show it to our leaders just to get a just to be their trusted advisor?
Mhm. Sure. So definitely a very good question, and definitely it hurts when
No,
the
I mean,
customer see
it
this.
really hurts me as a consultant,
Mhm.
SAP consultant, when they don't business don't listen to me. So I mean, it's not in my hand, right? So
Absolutely. And as you rightly said, right, it's more of a business driven. Business is the one who will be using this solution at the end. And if they are happy with the solution, they will go with that. Now, Blue Yonder and SAP, right, as the Magic Quadrant showed, that there was a difference, and Blue Yonder is slightly ahead of SAP. SAP is trying to catch up and all those things. But considering your scenario, let's say Blue Yonder is being currently used for outbound process, and you are trying to leverage whether we can use SAP TM for the inbound processes, right? That's
yeah,
where you want to
that's the
pitch in.
question. Yeah,
That's where you want
basically.
to pitch in and show that how SAP will be productive. So the most important aspect over here is, and most important point in your hand is they have S4 HANA, and what you get with
Yeah,
S4 HANA
we
is
have
embedded.
S/4HANA, the EML 2020 version. That's what
Mhm.
we are
Yep.
working on.
Yep.
Hmm.
So what the most important aspect over here is the embedded TM that we have, right? It comes along with that, and you did not have specific special license for that. And you can also show them with the embed. You can activate it in the sandbox and show them how the inbound scenario works with this embedded TM. That can be demonstrated to the customer, saying that you did not look for anything extra. It's a part. It's in the system. Let's say probably let's go 10 years back. What would have done if the customer wanted to go with a shipment solution? We show them Elytra. right? Saying that
Yeah.
yes, it's a part of solution. So with the same mindset, what you can do is you can showcase those functionalities from the inbound side, when there is an imports vendor, when there is a local vendor, when the ship, how to manage the milk run and all. And if possible, try to also involve SAP in this, because SAP would like to support in this scenario. Look for a SAP local representative where you can, whom you can engage. Look for whether the customer has SAP support out there. Okay,
No, no,
have
we have a
the
support from
customer.
SAP predominantly from Germany and
Mhm.
US and Canada. So where they
Great,
they are there.
awesome.
It's a large transformation program. So I mean they
Yes,
and it's their diamond customers. So they are
yes.
there. But then the problem is that I mean
It's a
explaining and
matter of
getting
it's a
trust
matter of
from the
yes,
business and the
exactly.
C-level stakeholder. It's not an easy task.
Hmm.
But when
Absolutely.
you
So
have
it's a
to do a
matter of
lot
pride.
of POCs. So
Absolutely. So it's a matter of pride even for SAP also to lose out on business. So SAP sweet seats, sweet guys, right? They should also talk with this particular customer and ensure that yes, definitely our product is also top-notch one, and we do cater to this industry quite well. And this is our product roadmap, right? We are ever evolving. We will give you much more offerings, in fact, as compared to the competitor. This pitch is required. See, I'll tell you one of the examples, right? I approached one of the customers, and the customer was on using a particular product, right? They were on Oracle, and I wanted to pitch SAP to them. And they said, "Oh, we don't want to go for SAP. We had experience with SAP and all. We did that." And when somebody comes up with that history, then it becomes very difficult. So the best possible option in this is involve SAP, in fact, because you don't know what has happened in the past, right? So definitely the best option is to involve SAP over here, leverage their support, and let them come in. You join shoulder to shoulder with them and do the demo. That would be the best possible approach, which I would choose as a SAP consultant, and I take pride in SAP too.
yeah,
And
I think that's a good
let me add
answer. Thank you. Yeah,
let me
Prabhjot.
add a couple of let me add a couple of points here. So the first point could be, the seamless integration between the EWM products, right? So that is one thing. And the another point is that even SAP is working on connecting networks like LBN. So LBN is connected through transportation management, and that is also there. And then if they want to go for a freight shopping, or you want to connect with Uber Freights, or say Four Kites, or InstaFreight, or there are multiple networks available. So if you want to connect with them, so those are also connected through LBN as well as TM. So, if that is where your organization needs to reach, then obviously the route is like, S4HANA, TM, LBN, and then the networks. So that is also one area. So you need to explore on the areas where your organization is missing on the opportunity, and then which are available within SAP. So that is where you can pitch in. That is what I
Yeah,
would say.
And
yeah,
and
Prabhjot. Yeah, I understood.
and you need to be really agile on this, otherwise the more the time you spend on this, you will lose the opportunity. So that's also very important aspect, because blue yonder want to involve that part also as a part of their business. Yeah,
Yeah,
that's
yeah.
very,
They
very
have
important.
already
So
been pitching from their side. No, no.
yeah.
I mean, we have outbound and we can take over inbound. So yeah, so
Mhm.
it's like it's a bit political discussion.
Yeah,
So
Hmm. Yeah.
absolutely. But good
Maybe
point.
can I add a few points here,
Sure,
Prabhjit?
Yeah, Chetan, please
sure.
go ahead.
Yeah. So I think look, what the I think what is missing there is the pain areas and the current trends and the challenges faced by industry. If you focus on three areas, right, I will do this way only, because I will try to first get the information like which are the pain areas in their current business process. Okay, then and what are the current industry trends and what are the industry challenge. Then I will go with the demo, okay, addressing those pain areas. So usually business or their IT team will realize what are the value adds. Otherwise, if you show these hunky bunky type of PPTs, provide SAPs. In fact, in one of the workshop, right, SAPs come up with only this Fury slide. Okay, and after that, the business come up with the, okay, we don't want anything out of that. So Chetan, now show me what is there in SAP as per HANA, which can evaluate. Even business don't like what SAP is presenting. SAP usually, they come up with these good slides of Fury only, and they just roll over the Fury slides. Okay, and business is not interested at all. So we have to go with their, we have to understand the pain areas and see how this, whether it's Oracle TM or SAP TM, doesn't matter, right? So it's just ERP, but our ERP, how it going to address their pain areas, how to resolve their issues, how it can be evaluate, considering their investments. Okay, so if you can present that, that will going to help definitely.
Oh, Chetan, it's a good input, but I mean, when a logistics director from business side presents a solution for Blue Yonder, and I, as an architect, present a SAP solution, it makes a lot of difference in front of the C levels. I mean, it's
Yep,
not
and I would
easy
say,
to get the trust from. I mean, when business says I want this, IT just executes this. I mean, it's a bit yeah, what I can say, it's a bit demanding kind of
yeah,
stuff and political
and
stuff. Yeah,
and you get a feeling of David versus Goliath, right?
yeah.
All right. So
So
anyone
we can
has any
sum
other question? So no other questions, I guess, Vinay. So we can wind up the session.
Sure.
Thank you very much for your time and
but
efforts,
I
and
mean,
I
if you
appreciate.
can share the presentation, that will be really helpful. It's a great
Oh yeah,
pre-sale presentation, actually. Very good work.
definitely. Yep.
Impressive.
Yeah,
We
we
can
will
also
we'll,
come
we'll
up with
do that.
some hands-on stuff too in future.
Yeah,
Perfect.
yeah, Vinay. We'll definitely plan on that. And I think we don't have any further questions, so we can wind
Mhm.
up. Again, thank you very much for your time and effort. Much appreciated.
Thank you everyone for being
Just
patient and
last
listening.
thing. Hello, this is Venkat,
Sure.
Prabhjot.
Yeah,
For your
Venkat.
last question, when I great, I first appreciate the way you took the presentation and the way you presented the facts. That's really great. And my question is, see, let's say for example, LETRA will also be there in S4HANA, and there is no plan to end that. In that case, what are the three things that I will miss if I continue to use LETRA even in S4HANA without choosing TM? What I
Yeah.
mean, I know the list of the differences between LETRA and TM, but what, in your opinion, what are the three things that I will miss if I continue to use LETRA even in S4HANA?
Yeah. So the most important thing over here, right? Elytra, right? I think SAP has initially SAP was mentioning 2025, but now SAP has mentioned 2030 as a timeline where they would go into the non-compatibility mode for Elytra. However, talking about the three things that you will miss out here is probably your planning part, optimization, which is very important, your 3D loading stuff, which comes up, your freight settlement, your purchase order, more visibility in the freight. These are some of the three important things which you probably, which SAP TM will provide you, which Elytra doesn't provide you. And there are no further innovations in Elytra. That's the another most important thing. If you want to go digitized, if you really want to showcase your digitization and lure the customers, then definitely SAP Transportation Management is way to go ahead. And with COVID and all, touchless things and all, definitely Elytra doesn't have any such solutions. So definitely yes, this is one of the most important aspect over here. Just to quote you one example, right? When COVID started and when we were not aware, like what would happen, where would our economy go? SAP had come up with, let's say, free license on, let's say, IBP control towers and all, so that customer would implement that free of cost. Customer get used to it, and then SAP can leverage it to implement IBP demand planning or supply network planning, all those solutions. So it's very important important, for any customer at this point of time to embrace SAP Transportation Management, or rather, try to jump into the train at the last minute, maybe like it's December 2030 and the product is going to be short, and then I want to get into or embark or get into the bus. That would be too late, in fact. Yeah. So the
Yeah.
organization change management would also be a big cost at that point of time.
Vinay, just a subsequent question. See, in case of EWM, I have
Mhm.
an option to choose between basic EWM and advanced EWM, and I need not
Yes.
to pay additional licensing fee for basic EWM. So, is
Yes.
there that sort of choice when it comes to TM?
Yes, we have that choice too. And there are basic processes. The presentation that I will share you will have a categorization of ELITRA processes, basic TM processes, and advanced processes.
Wonderful. For basic, I need not to pay additional cost.
No cost. It comes with the S4HANA suites.
Oh yeah, great. Even I really appreciate the way you presented, especially the vocabulary, the terms that you used, like a complete professional in logistics space. I'm really
Mhm.
happy to see you here, and we'll get connected on LinkedIn too. Thank you, Prabhjot.
Thank you
Thank
very
you.
much.
Thank you, Matan. Thank
Thank
you,
you,
everyone.
everyone.
So we are already running late. So thank you, Vinay, again. So
Thanks,
we'll meet
Prabhjot.
again
Everyone, enjoy
with
your
any
weekend.
other. Thank you.
Bye.
Thank you, everyone. Bye bye. Take care.
Thank you. Thank you. Thanks. Thanks, Vinay. Thanks.